Hey guys, just going to give you another video here. But before we get back on the car, I just wanted to do a little wiring repair 101 with you guys. Give you a couple tips on how to do a good wiring repair if you ever had the need to do one. Not a lot of people are aware on how to do them, or they just don't know. But I'll show you some do's and don'ts. Start off, your basic tools. You got your wire strippers, side cutters. You got butt connector crimps. These are pretty cool. They just ratchet, holds your butt connector in there. You can slide your wire in and squeeze, and it automatically releases. Same thing with this tool. It does terminal pins. See how it's got the little teeth in there? It actually folds the metal over and crimps it into the wire. So there's actually different sizes. These you can get for different size terminal gauges and stuff like that. Picked up a little mini torch here. Works pretty good. Works good if you don't have a soldering iron. Some solder. Test light. What I find is a lot of people, when they use a test light, what they want to do is, since they can't get to a connector, what they want to do is they want to pierce the wire with the test light just to see if it's got power. So what happens when you do that, it's hard to do this with one hand here. So basically you put a hole in the insulator just to make contact. I'm just going to put the camera down here. Try to get this a little bit better. So they force it into the wire. And what that does, it makes a little nick in the insulator. And then you're actually prone to get water in there, and then you'd be surprised how fast that turns green, and it turns to powder. The copper actually turns to a powder, and you can just pull the whole wire insulator apart. These are a pain in the ass to find when you're hunting for a circuit that's got high resistance or open. You got to start at one end and work your way to the other end. Sometimes you get lucky and you find it. But if you're starting at the wrong end, you never know, so it takes you a while to go through the harness and find it. So I would probably stay clear from doing stuff like that. What I find works, if you pick up some alligator clips, and solder some wire onto it, and I got little clamps here, and those work good if you have terminal leads here. So what these are actually terminals that slide in the connector, and down here again. You take your thing, put it in here, and then you can, connect your test light up to the other end while grounding it, and you can check your circuit that way. Like this one here, it's got little pins in there, and sometimes if you just touch it with your test light, it'll give you whatever you need to find, whether you got your voltage, or you're testing the ground circle with an ohm meter. But sometimes if you push this to hold it in there, you damage the terminal. So these terminal things here, they just slide in like a regular terminal would, and then they stay. You can hook your alligator clip up to one end, hook it to your ground side on your test light, and do your testing that way. So it's actually pretty good. So getting back to an actual wiring repair here. I think everybody's seen these things before. I think what you should do is just take them and throw them in the friggin' garbage, because they're nothing but garbage. I don't know. People seem to think that those are made for wires, but I don't think they are. I've seen nothing but problems with those. People do trailer harness connections with them, and then they wonder why the next year they take the trailer out and their lights don't work. Well, it's because of that. These are actually not too bad, but you got to be careful where you use them. You don't want to be using these outside in the elements, like under a hood or anything like that, because they're they don't protect from moisture getting in there. So just be careful where you use those. Inside the car, hooking a stereo up, or a fog light switch, or whatever. These are pretty good. Not a lot of water gets into your car. Hopefully not. Then there's these butt connectors, which are actually pretty good. Same idea as the other ones, but you heat these up and they shrink wrap around the wire. So pretty good. That actually works good with this tool here. As you just set your crimper in, set your butt connector in your crimp tool, and take your wire, slide it in the hole. And there's different gauge butt connectors for different gauge wires, so you got to make sure you use the right one. So make sure you're seated, and then just give it a crimp. Nice connection there. And then you just heat it up, and it should be nice and sealed. If you don't have one of these tools, I've seen that sometimes people they'll take side cutters and they'll squeeze the crimp. Well, it still crimps it nice, but what it does is it cuts the plastic right here, and even though you heat it, there's still an open spot here, so it's prone to get water, and then this will corrode. So you got to be careful. I find that the best way to do a wire repair is to simply crimp two wires together with something like this. It's an actual crimping terminal, and then you use a shrink wrap tube over top. So let's grab two pieces of wire here. What we'll do is we'll load this in here. So that's loaded, it's ratcheted in there. Basically take one side of your wire, slide it in this way. Now this repair is probably the best one you can do, other than replace it from connector to connector. But sometimes your wire repair is you know, in your harness, and you can't, you know, access your whole harness and rip it apart just to change a wire. So doing it this way here is probably your best, but I'm just doing this for demonstrations. But you'd want to put your shrink wrap tube over top before you crimp it, because you'll never get it on afterwards. So you slide this wire in from this side, and you just crimp it. Now these crimps, the terminals are bigger than the crimp tool, so you want to slide it over after, and make sure you get from end to end. So there you go. It's a nice little crimp. Now what you can also do, you can solder the joint. Just apply a little bit of heat and then touch the solder to the copper. Alright, there we go. It's focusing here at all. So there you got a nice crimp. Solder's in there, nice strong connection. So you know that circuit's going to have good continuity through there. There's not going to be any high resistance. So now what we want to do is we want to protect it. In order to do that, you need to use a shrink tube. Now you got to be careful on which shrimp tubes you use, because they've got some just basic shrimp tubes like these. You just put them on, heat them up, and they shrink, but they don't seal the circuit. They only protect it from you know, grounding out or coming in contact with anything, so you got to make sure. These are the ones you want to use. These have a dual wall. It's almost like a glue inside, so when you actually heat this, it heats the outer casing and it melts the glue around the wire, and it actually gives it pretty much 100% seal. So what we'll do is we'll grab a short one, because you don't need to use a long one for a little repair. You can actually trim them down. So camera back down here. Shrink wrap on earlier. Looks basically something like this. So when you're heating this, you want to make sure you don't come in contact with the flame. You just want to use the heat from it. You may want to use like a heat gun, but if you don't have a heat gun, you can use a torch. But just try not to hold it on one spot too long, because you will actually blister it. Yeah, a little bit too long there. So you know you'll get it when you see the inside glue start oozing out on each end. Take a look at that here. Alright, so see the glue on each side? So now this thing is weatherproof. This camera sucks for focusing on stuff like this. Let's try to zoom back out. So that's probably your best way to do a wire repair. These are okay, but the only problem is if you have, say you had a wire harness that was in an accident and it severed a harness that had, I don't know, say 10 wires in it. You know, you got a wire harness that's something like this thick, and then your conduit goes over top. Try putting 10 of these together next to each other. It's going to almost triple the size of that one spot. So you know, sometimes what I do is I'll space them out. So, but sometimes you can't do that, because if the harness is damaged that bad, then this is probably your better way. It's less bulk, it's you know, seals it good, and normally all this will fit back up into the conduit, so you can't even tell there was a wire repair done. So I hope that helps some of you guys out there who fiddle around with wiring repairs, or try to connect anything under your hood, you know, and you want to make sure it's not going to be affected by weather. Just make sure if you're using anything that's got a shrinkable thing on it, just make sure you protect the main area where you use the tool. These are actually not too bad in price. I think I bought this off one of the trucks, but I think Home Depot sells them. Canadian Tire, Princess Auto. I'm not too sure on some of the United States stores, but I'm sure they have them out there as well. Actually, I think there's a new set out I've seen that has basically, it's this set here, but the jaws are removable, and they actually come with 5 different crimping tools that actually slide in. So, yeah. Alright, so now that that's done, I guess we get back on this Firebird now. Alright.